What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the Dread Pirate Dr. Disaster, and the countdown is on when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows. We are now officially within 2 weeks of that game's release, and despite the massive marketing campaign that Ubisoft has launched, the game doesn't seem to have much enthusiasm from gamers.
Here I come to save the day!
Oh my god, I don't care!
Shit, I don't care either.
By now, a major game like Assassin's Creed Shadows with true momentum should be hovering around the top 10 bestsellers on Steam just a few weeks ahead of launch. As you may recall, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as an example, was in or around the top 10 on Steam for several weeks ahead of launch. Monster Hunter Wilds was in the top 10 for literal months before that game came out. Assassin's Creed Shadows just broke the top 50, and as you can see, its follower count of around 25,000 is puny, especially when weighed against the follower count of the likes of Avowed, which has a very low player count, and yet they had over 50,000 followers in the weeks leading up to its launch. Overall, this is indicative of a very soft launch on Steam. The overall theme of the day is that this appears to be the sentiment toward Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I don't care.
As the marketing campaign for Shadows is heating up, a series of trailers were launched yesterday, and I'm willing to bet that most of you didn't even know because nobody is sharing it, nobody is talking about it, nobody cares. The viewership for these trailers is absolutely atrocious.
Where did everybody go?
We do not care.
With everything that we're seeing with this game ahead of launch, I still expect Shadows to sell reasonably well because it is an Assassin's Creed game. But the Steam launch looks to be inexplicably soft, like really soft. The numbers at this point indicate a launch on Steam worse than something like Avowed, which didn't even hit 20,000 players. And honestly, I find this hard to understand. It's hard to believe, but I suppose it is possible that Assassin's Creed, which seems like one of those invulnerable franchises, an absolutely bulletproof IP, it is possible that they do actually have some cracks in the armor. Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to follow me over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster 1. Anyhow, let's look at this impending Assassin's Creed Shadows release, which, let me lay all my cards out onto the table for full transparency. If you couldn't guess, I would love to see this game flop as hard as, say, Star Wars Outlaws did for Ubisoft around a half a year ago. I'd love to see that because this is a company that doesn't care about gamers. This is a company that has no interest in making games for us. They want to preach at us with all of their weird, progressive crap. Basically, what I'm saying is that I have a vested interest in this game failing. That is my bias, and I'm trying to be careful not to let that bias skew my opinion on how this game is going to perform. But look at the numbers again on Steam. That isn't what you would expect from a launch like Assassin's Creed Shadows. The problem is that we don't really have numbers for the old Assassin's Creed games to go by on Steam. Games like Valhalla didn't release on Steam on launch. Until recently, Ubisoft waited a few years to release their games on Steam, so of course, those games had very muted numbers. Valhalla was a massive success, but as you can see here, it never went above 16,000 concurrent players on the platform. Anyhow, Shadows is on pace to put up numbers like that, and basically, I can only think of 3 explanations for why this is the case. Number 1, and this one seems the least likely, but it is a possibility. Anyhow, there is a chance that there is some sort of mass delay among gamers getting interested in this game for some reason. It's possible that we will see some sort of massive upswing in follower count and the game will suddenly skyrocket up the charts, but honestly, I severely doubt it. The sort of jump that the game would need to have a launch like what we saw with, say, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That's a game that had 250,000 concurrent players at its peak, and it sold a couple million units. So, it's an interesting barometer for Shadows, but in order to have that kind of launch, you'd expect to see them gain over 100,000 followers in the next week or so, and I just don't see that happening for Assassin's Creed Shadows. The second explanation for why this game appears to be having tepid numbers on Steam, and if I remove my bias goggles, this explanation does seem to be the most likely. Since Ubisoft has long ignored Steam as a platform, gamers have mostly played Assassin's Creed games on the PlayStation and Xbox consoles. Human beings are creatures of habit, and it seems likely to me that someone who played Assassin's Creed on the PlayStation before will likely just buy the next one on the PlayStation as well. After all, the cultural auto intake crowd, the normies who see an Assassin's Creed release and just have to go out and buy it, those are the ones that a company such as Ubisoft is targeting, and those people are likelier to have an Xbox or PlayStation than they are to have a gaming PC. If this ends up being the truth of it, expect to see low player numbers on Steam, but those numbers will be combated by game journalists in the first few days after the release, with Ubisoft putting out an announcement that they have sold however many millions of copies. But there is a third possibility, a third possible explanation, and if this one comes to pass, it would be extremely heartening for those of us who have been fighting against the pandering, shit-lib garbage that Ubisoft is shoveling. And the possibility is this, that Assassin's Creed is a major franchise, but people are done with it. The numbers that we are seeing on Steam and the numbers that we are seeing in the trailers for the game that just dropped, those could be indicative of a franchise that is no longer powerful enough to overcome the controversy that they have courted. It's not as though that sort of thing has never happened before, especially in recent times. Look at Star Wars Outlaws back in the fall. A Star Wars game from a huge company like Ubisoft ought to have been huge, but it flopped. Or look at Dragon Age the Veilguard. That franchise may not be quite the juggernaut that Assassin's Creed is, but make no mistake, Dragon Age was massive at one point, and yet the controversy that swirled around that game absolutely killed it. They're giving it away right now for free on PS Plus for Pete's sake, just 4 months removed from its release. So, while I don't think this is the likeliest outcome, there is a chance that this game, that Shadows, will have a launch not much better than the likes of Veilguard. It's possible that these Steam numbers are representative of gamer sentiment across all platforms, and that they will only sell, say, 1 or 2 million copies in its first month. And for anyone who thinks a number like that sounds impressive, let me just say that for a franchise like Assassin's Creed, that would be catastrophic. The game likely has a budget very similar to Star Wars Outlaws. If that's the case, then they probably need to sell something in the ballpark of 4.5 to 5 million copies of the game at full price just to break even. If I had to guess, at the moment, I'm expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 million copies is what Assassin's Creed Shadows will sell in the first month. But the problem for Ubisoft is that after that, the well will dry up. Those numbers will flatline because they will have exhausted most of the unthinking autopilot zombies who just consume product without question, and Ubisoft will then have to resort to sales to entice people to buy. And of course, if they cut the price, then they need to sell even more copies to break even. And for a game like Shadows, which Ubisoft is banking on to save them from freaking bankruptcy, well, let's just say this: things are looking bleak for these a-holes, and it warms my black heart. But I'm gonna leave it there. How many copies of Assassin's Creed Shadows do you think Ubisoft will sell in its first month? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.